Hello, my darlings. This is Maria. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, please subscribe for more content like this one. Today, we're going to be talking about negative emotions, specifically the emotions that we absorb from the human collective, the ones that don't even fully belong to us, and yet we feel them in our body as if they were our own. Let's dive right in because we have all been feeling the feels. This has been an emotionally charged year. This year has been hard, you guys, and we still have 3 more months of essentially more of the same. So I figured that today I would offer you a quick distinction around how to understand which emotions belong to you and truly are your own, what kind of emotions you have simply absorbed from your surroundings, how to deal with the emotions that you absorbed from the surroundings, as well as we are going to dissect kind of like the why behind it all. Alrighty, so do you guys ever wake up in the morning feeling a certain way, like you already wake up feeling potentially down or feeling uneasy or have this inexplicable anxiety or fear and you don't even know where that's coming from? So that would be an example of a collective emotion, the emotion of the people in your vicinity or your surroundings or your area. It could be your city, it could be your county, it could be your country, actually. So we as human beings don't exist in a vacuum. We exist as part of a large human family. And as such, we are privy to the vibrations, the collective vibrations of every single human on Earth, and especially the vibrations of the people in our vicinity. Now, we may not be aware of that, but at any point in time, we are like an emotional antenna. We have a mental antenna as well, but there is an emotional antenna within our body that is at any given point in time scanning the entirety of our surroundings, searching for strong emotions. And then when that antenna finds a strong emotion, it starts looking for consistency. So essentially, it scans the depth of emotion that is being felt in your vicinity, as well as how many individuals, how many people are feeling that emotion to a strong degree. And so if that antenna picks up on the fact that enough people, let's call it critical mass, of people in your vicinity is feeling a particular emotion strong enough, it perceives that it needs to let you know. So your body wants to raise a red flag. So your body's logic is a little bit like this. Okay, let's say 10% of people in this particular area are feeling fear. There must be a reason why they're feeling fear. I must let my person know that they should be feeling fear, or better yet, I can absorb those vibrations and start emanating, because vibrations are, among other things, it could also be a protective mechanism. So we walk around, or like, let's say we wake up, right? And of course, when we are sleeping, we are extremely prone to, essentially all of our bodies are very open, right? Dream state is a healing state. It's a state of receptivity is ultimately what it is. And that is why we often wake up having already been the sponge for all of the emotions that surround us throughout the night. Now, if you are unaware that this is how your emotional body works, if you are unaware how our matrix is set up, you may mistake the emotions that are coming towards you like an avalanche, like a torrent. You may mistake those emotions for your own instead of understanding and acknowledging that those are the emotions of others and compartmentalizing them as such. I find that the more negative vibrations we're feeling, it's almost like over time, it becomes harder and harder to deal with negative emotions. So you should think of your emotional body, which is your first line of defense, as it relates to emotion, as a sieve. So it's meant to sift through and filter out the negative emotions as much as it can. But if it is being bombarded with a lot of negativity, all kind of like back to back to back to back, then its capacity to filter away negativity becomes limited. And that is essentially the core crux of the issue. Also, if you guys have watched my podcast around the collective matrix, you already know that there are 2 types of matrices that impact us on a day-to-day basis. You have your own personal cell of the matrix as well as the collective. The collective matrix is essentially what is responsible for your body absorbing all these emotions of the collective. And here's kind of like how it happens. So you are living in this like little cell that is your individual cell, kind of like minding your own business. In this particular instance, you may be sleeping. As you're sleeping, you're probably not feeling anything strong, like any strong emotions of your own, because you are in a state of rest. Unless, and of course, there is an exception to every rule, maybe you're seeing a nightmare and then you are going to be feeling a very strong emotion. But let's say it's run-of-the-mill, average dream, average night. So your individual cell of the matrix is not necessarily going to be emotionally charged. As such, it's going to start looking at the outside world to see what is going on in the collective. Again, this is a survival mechanism. This is something that we developed during the process of evolution, the survival of the fittest mechanism. And so your personal cell of the matrix is going to scan everything that's around you, and it's going to want to pick up on any emotion that is strongly felt in your vicinity. So that's that, and that's how you end up with emotions that don't belong to you. One thing I find that human beings do that may not serve us is this. When we identify something as our own, we become victims to it. We feel a loss of power and a loss of control if this is something our own and it is negative. I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. If you identify with a negative self-belief, or if you identify with a childhood trauma or as like yours, or you identify as a negative emotion as yours, you take it on as a part of yourself. And as such, it becomes extremely hard for you to deal with it. Because now it is a part of your vessel. When something is a part of your vessel, you get all types of issues. You get blind spots, you get distortions in your energy field, and then essentially you may even start feeling down, so you may not even be in the prime state to help yourself out. So, long story short, it does not serve us to internalize negative emotions. Because the moment you say, I am feeling down, or I am feeling afraid, or I am feeling anxious, essentially you adopted that transient state that emotion is as your own, and as such, you're holding on to that and internalizing it, and it makes it harder for you to move through it. As opposed to understanding that something is not of you, right? So if you wake up in the morning and everybody in your area is anxious, has nothing to do with you. You are in your own slice of the universe. You could be doing great. Now, if you adopted that emotion and said, actually, it's not them who are anxious, it's me who's anxious. All of a sudden, it's your problem. All of a sudden, you join everybody else in that geographical region that's struggling with the same exact thing. Now, I think one of the reasons that we are even on the spiritual path is because the spiritual path leads to more awareness, and awareness leads to a happy life, or at least that is the idea. And so we have the tools to not be to not have to play with a collective playbook. We get to write our own. So here's a quick practice for you. Here's what you should do. When you wake up in the morning and you're feeling down, by the way, it doesn't have to be when you wake up in the morning. You can pick up on negative emotions anytime. And so when you feel like just an avalanche of an emotion taking you over and it's negative, enough so that you notice it and enough so that you feel like you need to address it or you need to deal with it. Here's what I would do. I would quickly close my eyes, or if I were you, you should quickly close your eyes. And here's what you should imagine. You should separate church and state. So step one of this is understanding what percentage of the emotion that you're feeling is your own versus you just picked up on somebody else's stuff. Essentially, you would imagine two vessels. Vessels are kind of like a lab tube made of glass and transparent. That's what I mean by a vessel. So when you would close your eyes, really just quickly focus on your breath. It's not a full-on meditation, it's a quick diagnostic. So you would imagine two vessels. The one vessel would represent the collective consciousness. The second vessel is going to represent your own. And so you would imagine this emotion that you're feeling as like a cloud. And then you would essentially ask the universe to divide that emotion into two vessels, into two lab tubes. The part that is of collective consciousness is going to go to the collective consciousness tube, and the other part is going to go to your tube. I guess what we're trying to do is divide and separate things that are yours from things that are not. And one way to do that is through this exercise. You can do it another way. You don't have to imagine the tubes. You can just imagine that the emotion is a cloud, and you can just divide the cloud into two parts the collective part and the personal part, and see which one is bigger. If you're in tune enough, if your third eye is working, you will even be able to see the percentages. I will tell you that just from my personal experience, when I wake up in the morning and I feel a strong negative emotion, so like if I'm feeling a negative emotion that is, let's say, 6 out of 10 and stronger, I usually do this diagnostic. And pretty often what comes up is that there's only 5 or 6 or 7% of that emotion that is mine, and everything else my body just absorbed from the collective. And there I was thinking it was me, and there I was trying to figure out why I feel a certain way, right? Because when we feel a certain way, we're wired to believe that there is a reason. And if we only were to find a reason, we could magically solve this puzzle. The problem is, in this case, the reason I may be feeling anxious is because everybody in my city is feeling anxious. But is that a good enough reason for me to choose to be anxious? So if we're looking to be more mindful, if we're looking to be the driver of the car instead of letting the car be the driver of itself. Although sometimes it's really good to have self-driving cars. But in this particular case, when emotions drive themselves, it's not very good. We are better off being in control. First things first is separate church and state. And once you did, owning your own emotions, right? That is something that is yours. But anything that is not, I literally cut it out. So I take like a sword of light, or, you can take the scissors made of light, and you would literally cut that, if there's like one cohesive stream of emotion, you would split it into 2 parts if it is not already split. And essentially you would declare to the universe that you're only taking ownership of emotions that are yours, and you are rejecting all the things that are not in this moment around this particular emotion. And you would notice that just because you're mindful, and this is, by the way, the free will universe, what does that mean? That things are only on default. Things only operate according to a default state for as long as you are in the back seat of the car and you're not in the driver's seat. The moment you choose to be in the driver's seat, the moment you choose to rewrite the script must be rewritten because you are in charge of your own life. Make no mistake. So that being said, essentially what you would do with the emotion, right? The part that is collective, don't worry about it. Like there's absolutely no harm done in you not internalizing it, in you not owning it, because this is not your stuff to deal with, not your stuff to work through. So feel free to cut it out and essentially separate and reject that part of the negative emotion. You will instantly feel better. Instantly. This practice works instantly. If you're still feeling like there's more work to do and maybe you haven't worked through the collective, you can create 3 bubbles around you. So protective bubbles. One of them should be pink. The other one should be white, and the one at the very the very outer bubble should be golden. And then like these 3 protective bubbles, and then essentially you would make a declaration that only positive emotions can pass through your protective bubbles, and nothing that is not of love, let's say, not something that is not of positivity, cannot come through your barriers. Now, the only thing in this particular instance that you should worry about is that once you create the bubbles, there's also the area that is inside of that first bubble, inside of the pink bubble, that you haven't changed anything with that space around your body, meaning if it already had that negative emotion, it's already in that bubble. So one thing you would probably want to do is imagine that there is a waterfall of light coming through your pink bubble and washing away all of the negativity. And then you're really, really, really clean and really, really good. Last but not least, if that doesn't even work, you may imagine that you're opening up a portal. A portal is like a door or a sphere of light, and it may be suspended in midair. It doesn't have to be attached to anything, doesn't have to look like a door. It's generally like a sphere, and then it opens up. And then you can take that negative collective emotion, just literally throw it in the portal. The portal closes its doors, and the emotion is gone. So that's that. But one thing that's really, really important, and I highly, highly encourage you to do that with emotions. And by the way, you can do the same thing with thoughts, negative thoughts. Please understand that probably 90% of your thoughts are not even yours. 90% of the emotions that are not triggered by a particular event are not even yours. So there's a lot that you're privy to just because you are floating in the grand collective soup of the collective matrix. And that is the rules of this game. But you are in charge and you in control as long as you know how this game operates. and you may lead a much happier life if you only take what's truly yours and discard all the rest, especially if it's negative. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if in the comments if you've been feeling the feels, or if you want to share your own ways of how you guys deal with negative emotions, do let me know as well. And if you try any of the practices that I mentioned in the video, I would love to get feedback. I always love hearing from you. Alrighty, thank you, loves. Bye, I'll see you in the next one.